you want to make an emotional connection with the right people. Obviously, you can't sell
Mm-hmm.
everything to anyone. You have to meet people, like you said, who are really, really desperate for what you want or what you're offering. And you have to tell them and show them with an emotional plea why it's so essential for them to get it from you. And you look around you at every single product, things you're wearing, things you're driving, things you're eating, things you're drinking, anything in your environment, you have made a decision about based on an emotional story that was told to you by that brand. And so we forget, as brands ourselves running businesses, creative entrepreneurs running businesses, that you have control over that story at all times.
Welcome back to the Bombshell Business Podcast. I'm your host, Amber Hurdle, and today I have a guest that just hits so many of the things that I love, 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 and I think you're going to be very excited about her perspective among branding, which I'm obsessed with, marketing, which I love, 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 interior design, which is one of the industries that I've loved and have really supported, especially the Bombshell brand. And I think there's just so many more things. Like she's a budding author, so many good things that we're going to dive into. Vacation rental space. Y'all know how I feel about my vacation rental industry. We just are covering it all today. So let me tell you about our guest. Ericka Saurit is a brand marketing strategist focused on helping creative entrepreneurs transform their businesses into unforgettable brands. She shows her clients how to leverage emotion and logic. Oh, who else says that? It might be this host to craft visual and narrative stories that speak directly to the clients they want to attract on their website, social media, and email campaigns. Girl, Ericka, my new bestie, welcome to the show.
Amber, I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you so much for having me. Really excited to chat with you and your audience today.
I am going to have to rein myself in here. We're going to be here all day, and bombshells are like, oh, we have a marathon podcast now. Is that what Amber's new strategy is? So I'm just going to have to try to stay focused and not get overly excited. So before we even begin, we all have a reason why we got into branding. I want to know yours.
Yeah. So I was a interior designer for many years. I went to school for fine art, actually, got a fine art degree, and then moved into design, realizing that that was sort of a better space for me. And what I started to see as an interior designer was, and one of the reasons that sort of pushed me into the more kind of brand and marketing space, was that so many of my colleagues in design, not just interior design, graphic design, fashion design, any kind of designer, they were, while really, really good at creating gorgeous spaces or, garments or, designs, books, magazines, they couldn't sell it back to the clients. They couldn't tell the story of like what brought the idea to life, why it was valuable to, that particular client. And because I had a background in fine art, I started to see that that storytelling is the really most important part. That's how you find the clients. That's how you get paid. That's how you get a commission. That's how you get the work. That's how you get hired again. That's how you get to build the business relationships that funds your creativity. And so what I started to realize was that my value as a designer and really as a storyteller was in supporting the marketing team to help that design come to life, to come out of the studio, to be built as a space, to be built in some cases as a museum or as a visual design. It needed someone to help push it along because, again, the design team couldn't do that. And branding for me came out of a desire to understand where the line between business and brand is, right? Mm. And it's very subtle,
very,
but very, very important. Because a brand, and this is something we can start to talk about a little bit, a brand is a feeling. A brand is a memory. It's a impression. It's a feeling you have about something. And so when a designer comes in and starts talking about feelings and emotions, most of the time they lose. Yep, exactly what you just did. Like, eyes glaze over. It's not, there's no, very hard to monetize a feeling. So if you can't create some kind of story around that feeling that puts it back into the client or into the customer, into their point of view, into their kind of value system, you'll never be able to sell that as a design. And so that's what good brands are really able to do. It took a lot of reworking of how to convince a designer that that's what they needed to do, that they needed to become a brand themselves, or they needed to be able to speak to the values of another corporate brand, for me to be able to build a career around this. So I don't know if that was an answer or sort of provocation to start a conversation, but
you found a need and you filled it, because
sure.
I think, and this is something, obviously we share a lot in common. For me, I don't know why I was thinking this while I was making my coffee this morning. This is how my crazy brain works. But, I wrote a whole chapter in the Bombshell Businesswoman about how to work with creatives because we're weird. And weird in the dictionary, when you looked it up, literally means supernatural. So I'm totally okay with being weird.
Yeah.
I was raised by a world-class drummer, and a culinarian, a chef. I was raised by creatives. I was put through private school by creatives. And I am a creative. I'm a writer, and, visually. And my very first major that I claimed in college was interior design, until I found out it took you a while to make money at that. So then that's the objective side of my brain. And that's the difference between me and you and I and most creatives, is I feel like, and I'm guessing here, I'm going to have to profile you after this, but I'm like, I find people, I want to know all about your personality. When you have the creative side and that very subjective part, that powerful harnessing of your emotions, like, what the power behind those are, but then you're also super objective and you ride that line of also needing facts and data, and it has to make sense to the bottom line. And when you put those two things together, you have a better opportunity to reach into that creative space and teach them in their language how to get over here, so that they can actually, they can get what they want, so that they can actually use their creativity in service to other people and amplify their brand, which they don't know that they need. And so I see that in you as well. It's like, oh, okay, well, I'm good at all of this, but I'm probably more valuable teaching other people like me how to make it tactical and profitable. Is that fair?
Very fair. And I would say, from my experience in both, like I said, art school and design school, back in the day, it was a while ago, maybe things have changed, but I don't think so, because I see young designers graduating, and coming into the workplace. And I've seen this over sort of multiple generations. They don't come with a background in business. They don't come with a lot of preparation about how to, that their role in a company is really to help make money. It's they're hired for their creativity, they're hired for their portfolio, maybe original ideas, but at the end of the day, what they're missing most of the time is the principle that they're there not just to give ideas, but to help the business sell itself and make money, right? Create something of value that's different, and can build and grow. So understanding first how and why that works comes from a place of, again, we're taught in design and art school that it's about our ideas. We have to sell them. So what I see, in a sense, with a lot of designers is that they speak about themselves first. They talk about their services, they talk about their team, they talk about their qualifications. But what people really want to know is how you can help them. And how what you have to offer as a, let's say, designer, is unique and different, and meets them in a place where they're going to pay attention and lean in. And if you can't have that very simple conversation with a potential client, with a new employer, with a client that is, coming to your employer, you'll never sell your idea.
And then you never get to do what you're born to do.
Exactly. And you do what other people want you to do.
That's right. That's not a fun life. And so, we kind of joke like nobody wants to talk about emotions, but one of the things that I have in my branding keynote that I deliver is understanding that post-COVID, things have shifted dramatically in the branding and marketing space. And the emotional connection is actually the part that is selling but you have to then tie in the objective side of things, because even people who make purchasing decisions and they think they're making an objective decision, it's really an emotional decision that they're using data or
That's right.
to justify that choice. And emotionally connected customers recommend at the rate of 71%. 71%. Right. We got to get this right, because to me, that's less marketing, that's less energy, that's less hamster wheel. Like, it's just going to come to me at the rate of 71% per person that I emotionally connect with. Shut your face. Let's go. Like, that's my plan.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. So I love that.
Now go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead. No, I was going to say, like, what you're talking to is one thing that I have created a kind of a framework for this, but I think this is not a new framework. I've just put it into sort of a system that's easier for people to think about. And it combines, like we both say, the logic and the emotion, but gives people kind of an entry point. It gives them a system to plug these things into so that they can still use emotion, right? Which is really important, but they have to do it in the context of understanding what's bringing that motivation, right? What's the emotion behind that core motivation that's driving someone to, call you as a service provider or buy something from you if you're a product manufacturer or making something in general.
Well, we were going in the same direction.
Good.
That's where I wanted to go next, is I know you have that E3 storytelling framework. And just to remind, listeners, y'all know that I say this all the time. It's in my book. The Amber definition of business is not the Harvard one. It's not a paragraph long. It's, you have a problem, I solve your problem, you give me money. That's what a business is. And so you can't skip the problem solving part. Like, you can have all the emotion, you can be the best at what you do, but if you can't show that you are solving that person's problem, they ain't coming off their cold hard cash to give it to you because you're fluffy and wonderful and, just all these things up here. Like, if they're going to give you their money, what is the problem that you are solving that they're willing to pay for?
That they're desperate to pay for.
That they're
absolutely cannot live without, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
E3,
I'll start with the E3. It's super easy. They're all E's, just like Ericka. Easy, right?
Nice.
So the first one is extraordinary. This is your differentiator. This is that thing that only you have. It's your juice. It's your, that one sort of killer characteristic, that quality, that background, that piece of education, that piece of culture, that piece of your history that nobody else really has, right? It's that, and this can change, obviously, as you evolve, as you kind of grow in your career. You may find it's not, it might change, it might be something different, but you have to really understand what that thing is and define it and make it really clear. So you lead with that thing that makes you extraordinary, because the second one is emotional. Obviously, you want to make an emotional connection with the right people. Obviously, you can't sell everything to anyone. You have to meet people, like you said, who are really, really desperate for what you want or what you're offering. And you have to tell them and show them with an emotional plea why it's so essential for them to get it from you. And, we can talk about case studies on this. You look at 2 different sneaker brands. You can look at 2 different coffee brands. You can look at 2 different sofa brands, if in the case of interior design. And what gives you a lean toward one or the other? You have a certain phone in your hand. It's a brand, whether you wanted to or not. You've been loyal to that brand. You've chose that product for a certain reason. And you look around you at every single product, things you're wearing, things you're driving, things you're eating, things you're drinking, anything in your environment, you have made a decision about based on an emotional story that was told to you by that brand. And so we forget, as brands ourselves, running businesses, creative entrepreneurs running businesses, that you have control over that story at all times.
Yeah. And I use Nike a lot because it's such a well-known brand when I'm trying to drive a point home about not betraying your brand, but just shifting your message based on your target audience. And so I use that a lot. But the hysterical thing about it is I might own one piece of Nike gear, like one. I'm an Adidas girl.
Me too.
See, girl, I'm coming to the south of France. Or you can hop over to Barcelona next week and come hang
Let's
out
go.
with me. But the reason why is Run DMC. So you go all the way back
my Adidas.
My Adidas.
Yes.
And I mean, I have can't, like, it's embarrassing how many Adidas I have. Okay. So, and I'm like the high heel queen, but
Mhm.
there's those little pieces. And also that there's that like that 80s, 90s hip hop side of me that
Yeah.
is a little like, I mean, kind of classy, kind of hood. That's a shirt that one of my friends got me, you know? And so like that, I'm a Southern California girl, like West Side, like West Coast rap. Like it's a part of like
It's
my
part of you.
story that I now am
Absolutely.
wearing as a representation of like, I think you think I'm fancy pants, but check out my Adidas because I'm not who
Absolutely.
you think I am. And then if you pull it full circle, like everybody wears Nike and I don't want to be like
Mhm.
everybody. So I'm going to pick Adidas
Yep.
because, you know, your suburban mom is
Yeah.
not wearing that. And so
Yep.
maybe she is, but most aren't. And I want to be
Most aren't.
different. So I'm just
Yep.
using that as example so that our listeners can understand. Do you hear the emotional conviction of why
Mhm.
I wear Adidas?
Mhm.
There is not another shoe brand in
Nothing
athletics.
they can invent another one that's better, in my
Mm-mm.
opinion. I'm with
No,
you. I'm with you.
give me some
No.
superstars. Let's go.
And the best part about, Adidas and multiple brands, right? This is a sort of, I would say it's a generational brand. I don't
Yeah.
want to take us back too far, but it's been around such a long time, but they're so consistent with their storytelling. They've not gone off the edge to such a place where you don't see yourself in that brand anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
They've stuck with us
Yeah.
instead of evolving past us faster than we're ready to evolve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. Smart.
Okay. So we
That's
have
that's a whole nother brand
extraordinary,
strategy we can talk about. We've got extraordinary, we've got emotional,
emotional.
and the
Okay.
third one, in fact, is I'm glad you brought Adidas up because you can talk about the third one, which is experience, and
Mm.
how this is more of like a tactical kind of strategy more than it is this is like how will you own the brand across each point of time, let's say from maybe a first sneaker purchase. You had a choice, right, when you were a teenager, or whenever you bought that first Adidas you know sneaker purchase, whatever it was, sweatshirt, who knows, like whenever you headband, whatever that
Yeah.
thing was, you had a choice at that time, right? And you continue to make the same choice because Adidas controlled the narrative at all touch points of your experience, and still does, right? They did it with music. They did it with how it felt when you walked into the shop. Maybe it was
Yeah.
like a freestanding store, maybe it was a store in a mall, maybe it was a store like even online now.
Mm-hmm.
If you're purchasing things, they have made a consistent investment in how that brand shows up across all of those touch points, and that is one of the most important parts of of any brand strategy, is to make sure that the narrative is consistent from the moment, I say for designers, like from the moment they step into your office or your studio. How are they greeted? What are they given? Where do they sit? How do they what's the whole experience like until even after you've delivered the space to them? What is your follow-up strategy? What happens if something is delivered damaged? What is your whole customer experience or your customer service experience like? What's it like a year later when you come back and ask for a referral, or they are at a party talking about you? What are they saying? Like, you really need to make an investment in all stages of that, because brands don't just stop, right? Your work doesn't just end. It
Right.
continues, it goes. So you need to think kind of long term as a business, becoming or investing in becoming a brand. This is something you need to think about long term. And so I can talk about that for days and hours.
For
But
sure.
you know what I'm saying.
Well, and this is just such a great point to throw in when you're at that experience level, and it is tactical, and it is every touch point in the customer journey from the time that they're even considering making a
Mm-hmm.
purchase, or the brand awareness
Yep.
becomes. Um, who is controlling that experience?
Right.
It ain't you as a founder. You
That's
can
right.
say what you want it to be, but it is
That's right.
truly it's your employees.
Mm-hmm.
And so each employee then has their personal brand, and how are they showing up in support of the business brand at
Yep.
every touch point, at every single part of are they protecting your brand? Are they
Yes.
upholding your brand?
Oh,
Are they amplifying your brand? Because if not, you got an employer brand problem, because they're not bought into the brand on the internal level. And that is the easiest place to influence dedication to the brand experience
Mm-hmm.
so that your customers consistently, no matter who they're talking to, no matter where they are in the
Yeah.
customer journey, that they are having the consistent experience because there's human beings involved who are
Yeah.
delivering it.
Let's talk about this a little bit more because I know that you're an expert at this, but I think it's so important for people who don't think about what that really means. I mean, potentially they've been separated from being an employee with another company
Yeah.
for so long, what it means to really come to work with a purpose, to really believe in the mission of a business so much that it affects your day-to-day, decision making at your desk. It affects how you feel about yourself on Sunday night before you go to work on Monday. It
Mm-hmm.
affects what you say again at a party when someone asks you, so where do you work? What do you do? Right? If your passion and your intention isn't kind of driven by a full brand purpose, like if that hasn't been made, really clear to you and your role, I think the overall the brand suffers in multiple ways. So is that
Oh,
something
it's
we,
so
we can
true.
talk about? Okay.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, so how do you see that living in the brands that you work with? Because a lot of interior
Mm,
designers might have, there are some big houses, but a lot of them are like, it's
yeah.
me. I have one other designer. Maybe we have a coordinator who helps with
Mm-hmm.
more of the administrative stuff. And then we have a lot of relationships with, architects and
Yeah.
contractors and that sort of thing that they work with.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you see the breakdowns and where do you see the companies that really thrive?
I think it's a matter of messaging, of course. The experience is always, I mean, if we want to talk about communication is about making sure that people have a feeling about you, whether it's clarity,
Mm.
or whether
Clarity's
it's
kind.
clarity is kind, right? People are going to remember how you made them feel. That's
Mhm.
an important key to any kind of communication. And that when you have that with partners, let's say you're an interior designer, an important partner for you is a real estate agent or an architect or a contractor, they're really going to be, important for your business development. They're going to be important in, sharing again those differentiators, that emotional part of your brand to potential clients. They really have to believe that to be true. You have to have worked together mostly for them to see that, or you have to have built the relationship to where they understand that part of your business and your brand to be able to communicate it back to someone else. So again, you control that narrative, you control that relationship. How you build those relationships is part of your marketing strategy, needs to be. It's more than a card you send them in the mail. It's more than, a lunch you might want to buy. It's more than sort of, bringing them in on a project. You have to kind of nurture that experience and nurture that narrative that you want them to feel about you and share with potential clients.
Yeah. And I love that you pointed that out because those are all tactics that you
Yeah.
can leverage, just like there are marketing tactics that you can leverage. But
Mm-hmm.
if it's not based on a foundational brand, whether that's
Right.
your external brand that your marketing is based on, or this is an employer brand, which
Mm-hmm.
is the culture and the feeling and the experience of working here, that tactic means nothing if it's not attached to something that
Right.
is more solid and more emotionally driven.
Mm-hmm.
And I joke all the time. I'm like, listen, y'all, keep your pizza parties. Like, stop with the pizza parties. Do I understand where I fit into the company? Do I
Right.
understand like how I'm appreciated? Are you going to help
Mm-hmm.
me get better at what I'm doing? Do I know
Right.
what winning looks like? Do I feel like I'm winning? Because if I don't have those things, then I'm not going to
Mm-hmm.
be happy here and then it's all going to break down. So we
Right.
could go on about this all the time, but I
Yeah.
want to bring it back to your world, which is you have a brand audit. And I know you've got a free download for this, so we
Yeah.
will definitely put in the show notes because this is
Please.
critical. But so many people, and I've worked with some really large brands that don't have
Mm-hmm.
things in place too. So there's so many people that's like, okay, we've got a business and we've got a team and we've got all
Mm-hmm.
these big visions and everything. And like, let's just go. And they start marketing and they've never established a true brand that informs the strategy that they're using in marketing. There's no
Right.
data to support, they're just kind of like out there winging it. So if people are inconsistent in their marketing, how can they do that brand audit to get back to center?
Yeah, the brand audit's going to show you right away on like literally one page where you stand. It's essentially kind of fill in the blank. You can do it on the audit itself. You can download it from the website, and the link is in your show notes. So it's brand audit. You can do screenshots of each of your channels. You'll see there's a prompt for social media. There's a prompt for the sort of first line of copy that shows up when you Google your business. Has it been updated? Does it state very clearly what you do, who you do it for, and the value, as you say?
Oh, did you hear her formula, everybody? Does that sound familiar? See, I'm not making this stuff up.
No, come on.
Say it again one more time for the people in the back.
What you do, who you do it for, and why it's valuable. Why should they care? What is going to make them kind of lean in? And, this is the place where obviously there's an emotion that can come from this, but really simply, it's basically about just sort of stating what you do, why you do it, and why they should care. And that is your message that this brand audit needs to show very clearly and consistently across each of your channels. You're the only person who's ever going to see whether you're, the marketing team director, or you are a consultant, or you are doing this for your own personal brand as a solopreneur. No one's going to see every single one of these at the same time except for you. But what might happen is that you're getting an inconsistent message with someone on Instagram versus your website versus maybe what's on your business card, maybe what's on your email signature.
By the way, ranked number 4 on Global Gurus as a branding professional in the world. And we're working on it, but the shoe cobbler's kid has no shoes. So I just, Ericka and I are not coming from a place of judgment or shaking our fingers at you.
That's right.
All of us have to do this.
Yes.
Routinely.
Yes. Routinely. Well, the way I like to say it is like, okay, there's 5, 6, 10 lanes on your freeway, right? And you're in one of them. And you have to remember that, there are people who can help you. And maybe this can tie into the kind of your final question. But you cannot drive in every single lane. You cannot drive the bookkeeping lane. You can't drive the marketing lane. You can't drive the design lane. You can't drive the CEO lane. You have to pick a lane and make sure that, you are directing the traffic in the other lanes. That's fine, but you can't be driving all the lanes. So, to do this brand audit and then hand it off to, the right people on your team who can help, if you have a team, who can help you get it updated and get it, consistent. Number 1, clear and interesting and evocative. Number 2, so that again, you're not sending out mixed messages and that you've got your story straight.
Yeah, I love it. Get your story straight.
Get your story straight.
Get your story straight.
Makes everything so much easier.
Yeah, we're working on it. We're working on it to the extent that I literally carved an entire piece of my business off to start its own, because I'm like, this is all confusing if it's over here. Like we have to have completely separate brands, completely separate messaging, completely separate audiences. Like it's just not working all in one umbrella anymore. I've been around too long and people have too many ideas of what's going on. So like as you evolve, this is a continuous process that even the best of the best have to go through.
Don't get overwhelmed. Like this is not something you can fix in one day. Obviously, marketing is a really long game, but in order to set yourself up for success, it's one of the very first steps is to invest in your brand and invest in your messaging and make sure that that's clear and consistent. Because as you say, like your employees ladder up to it, the way your company functions, the value systems you create, your mission, your vision, everything comes back to brand.
Yeah. And I joke sometimes, I'm like, listen, I know that if you go to a chiropractor, they're going to say you need an adjustment. And if you go to, a physical therapist, they're going to say you need some sessions. And if you go to an orthopedic surgeon, he's going to say you need surgery. But when I look at a business, I think first and foremost, where's your brand guide? Where's your messaging? Right. Who are your ideal customers? Like, what are we doing here? Where are all of our outposts out in the world of how we're
foundation
signaling this out? And then how are we making all decisions in our business? It is your brand. It is your brand. And if you don't have that, then I don't even understand how you're running a business right now. But I'm a branding person. So, you talk to a CFO and they're going to be like, it's your P&L. And I'm like, well, your P&L is that is reflective of how your brand's performing. So, I think I'm right.
Great.
But
I think you're right too, Amber.
I might detour over to the south of France next week. This might happen.
Come on over.
Have a little French champagne. We can do it. Okay, so before we get into all the different ways that I might share her with you guys, I might tell you how you get a hold of her, but let's do this final question. So I'm a bombshell, a bold, brave, unwaveringly confident woman in business. What is your parting piece of advice for me?
You don't have to know everything. You just have to know where to find the answers.
Ugh, preach. Yeah, I love it.
Can't know it all, but you can be really good at research and really good at finding out, really good at like mining your network, and you can get the answers you need.
Yeah, network is so important, especially in those
Yep.
service-based businesses. So
Oh,
important.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole other episode. You're gonna have to come back. Okay.
Okay.
So, all right. So we're gonna find you. First of all, she does have that brand audit and
Yeah.
fully endorse that. So it's sauritcreative.com/brand audit.
Yeah.
She is on Instagram at Saurit Creative. And let's see here. You're on LinkedIn, I know.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll put that in the show notes. I don't think I have it in my notes here, but we're connected on LinkedIn. And that's
Yep.
where we go to do business, my friends. And then tell us about your upcoming book.
Yep. I'm writing a book. I'm going to make all of this very clear. Making all of this clear. Writing a book is such an excellent exercise in clarity for anyone who's got the time. It's taking me a while, and that's okay, but I love writing, and forcing yourself to sit down and write something out, like I said, is super important. So that's coming out later this year. I am also finishing a course that will come out at the end of May.
Yeah, which this episode will come out just in time. So tell us about that. We're going to make sure this comes out on time.
Yes, this course is about storytelling for branding, for your brand, and it will help walk you through this E3 storytelling framework, which is also a business strategy, essentially. Yeah. So, you will have tons of worksheets. You will have tons of, I like to use theory, again, that sort of emotion and logic. I like to use a theory portion with the workshops that are sort of hands-on that you can apply back to your business. So short and simple. I know how it is to take courses that you don't finish. So I wanted this to be something that people could do in a couple of hours and get it out and get it applied. So coming out at the end of the month, I will keep you connected on the links for that.
Yeah. And of course, this is, I'm just so obsessed with branding, and you don't need to come get it from me. Like there's no one way. There is no one book. There is no one course. Like do as many, right? Yes. So I'm so happy to be take this course, because it is going to shift things for you. And her voice is a great voice, and the way that she structures things is clearly if you're not the nerdy kind of person and you are more of a creative person, she's someone that is going to show you how to do it in your voice. So thank you. I would encourage you to download her freebie, because then you'll be on her email list, or you can opt in to be on her email list, and then you'll find out about this course. And the one thing I know about courses, because I've been doing this for over a decade, is when we launch them at first, that's as good as it's going to get on price. So oh yeah, once it takes off, and then market demand,
take advantage of any.
Yeah. So do it now. This is her first at this particular course. Obviously she's been doing this for forever, so I don't mean to diminish your experience, but this is the first course to this. So don't miss out on that opportunity.
Thank you for that.
Any final things before we wrap things up?
No, I'm super excited for all to come. For you, and everything that you offer is really valuable. I think you're a great leader in our space, and thank you for being an advocate for brand.
Back at
for
you.
Investing in brand in your company.
Yeah, and thank you for doing it in a way that is easy to receive and implement, and isn't just theory and crankiness, which can happen in our space. People can get pretty snotty about branding and marketing and high on their horse, and it's ridiculous. We're all in it together, but
we're all in there. Yep.
Okay, bombshell. Obviously I was a little extra excited. I say I'm excited every episode because I really, really am. But this one, you probably, especially if you're watching on YouTube, you're like, wow, Amber really lit up like a Christmas tree on this one, because I just believe so much success can come if you're confident in your brand. I think branding delivers confidence. That's what we say, is we sell branding, but we deliver confidence. So, make sure you check her out. I assure you, you'll probably see a selfie of us at some point in the future. And
sure.
if this was meaningful to you, if you learned something and you can think of somebody who needs to hear this or watch it, share it with them. And then certainly leave us a rating and review. And that way we can get in front of more eyeballs or into more AirPods and make sure that more bombshells are being fed and nurtured and cared for and loved and supported and all those things that powerful women need, even though the world thinks that we can just take everything on all by ourselves. That is the lie that we want to break. So bombshell, go out there, be bold, brave, unwaveringly confident, and I will see you on the next episode.